Welcome to Teller's Drum, the exact spot you want to be. Let's talk about the silent war between plants and insects.
Some battles are loud, with the clash of swords and roars of fury echoing across history. But others are almost invisible, quiet wars waged inch by inch, leaf by leaf, and bite by bite. This is the story of a war that's been going on for over 400 million years, and you've probably never noticed it. It's happening in your backyard, your garden, your local park. A never-ending arms race between plants and insects.
You see, while we tend to think of plants as passive lifeforms rooted, motionless, gentle, nothing could be further from the truth. Beneath their calm green exteriors lies a sophisticated network of defenses, toxins, signals, and strategies. And they've needed every one of them to survive, because plants are constantly under attack. From caterpillars munching leaves to beetles boring into stems, insects see plants as food, shelter, and even nurseries for their offspring. And plants, unable to run or hide, have had to evolve an incredible arsenal to fight back. This is the silent war, plants versus insects, and it's far more epic than you might imagine.
Let's rewind Earth's clock to a time before humans, before dinosaurs, back over 400 million years. At that point, life had just begun to colonize land. Plants were small, primitive, and just starting to develop features we now recognize as stems, leaves, even roots. Insects, among the first animals to take to the skies, quickly followed the green tide onto land. They came crawling and flying, biting and chewing. And the plants, they weren't ready. At least, not at first. Initially, the only line of defense plants had was to toughen up. Early plants began developing rigid tissues, like lignin, the substance that gives wood its strength. Leaves got thicker. Surfaces became waxy, hairy, or covered in tiny spikes called trichomes. Insects had a harder time chewing, climbing, or even sensing the plant properly. But evolution is relentless. For every plant defense, an insect found a workaround.
Then the plants got smarter. They began producing chemicals, not just any chemicals, but compounds specifically designed to poison, confuse, or repel insects. These substances, known as secondary metabolites, weren't essential for the plant's day-to-day survival. They weren't part of photosynthesis or growth. They existed purely to fight.
Take nicotine, for example. In tobacco plants, it acts as a neurotoxin, devastating the nervous systems of insects. Or capsaicin in chili peppers, the chemical that burns your mouth. That heat sensation, it's meant to deter mammals and insects alike from chewing the fruit too early. Tannins, found in oak leaves and tea, bind to proteins and make leaves taste bitter and hard to digest. Some compounds even mimic insect hormones, throwing their development into chaos.
And insects? They kept evolving too. The caterpillar of the tobacco hornworm can chow down on nicotine-filled leaves like it's a salad bar. Monarch butterfly larvae feed exclusively on milkweed, a plant so toxic it kills most other insects. Not only do monarchs survive it, they use the toxins to make themselves poisonous to predators.
It's not just about toxins, though. Plants use deception. Some release scents that mimic insect pheromones, confusing would-be attackers or luring in allies. Others change their appearance to appear less appetizing, or even pretend to be already infested.
Some defenses are so wild they sound like science fiction. Consider the acacia tree. In parts of Africa, some acacias have developed a deal with ants.
The tree produces sugary nectar not in its flowers, but directly on its leaves, tiny food factories that exist solely to feed ants. In return, the ants patrol the tree like tiny soldiers. When a browsing animal like a giraffe tries to eat the leaves, the ants swarm out and attack its face. Even insects trying to lay eggs on the leaves are met with relentless ant aggression. It's a mutual defense pact forged in evolutionary time. Or look at the wild tobacco plant, Nicotiana attenuata. When it gets attacked by a caterpillar, it releases a chemical signal into the air, a distress call. But it's not asking other plants for help. It's summoning an airstrike. Parasitic wasps smell the signal, hone in on the caterpillar, and lay their eggs inside it. The wasp larvae slowly devour the caterpillar from the inside out. The tobacco plant has essentially outsourced its defense to hired killers. Even more fascinating, some plants can hear. Experiments have shown that plants like Arabidopsis can detect the vibrations made by chewing caterpillars. When the plant hears this sound, it ramps up production of defensive chemicals. Not the wind, not a passing beetle. The actual chewing sound triggers a response.
But insects aren't just passive victims in this war. Their countermeasures are just as incredible.
Some beetles secrete enzymes in their saliva that neutralize plant toxins before they're even absorbed. Others coat themselves in waxy layers to avoid triggering plant defenses. The silverleaf whitefly, a pest infamous for devastating crops, actually manipulates the plant's immune system. It injects chemicals that tell the plant to stop defending itself, like a spy whispering the secret password at a guarded gate. Then there's mimicry. Some butterfly species have evolved to look like bird droppings as caterpillars. Yes, you read that right, to avoid being spotted on leaves. Others resemble twigs or even thorns, sitting motionless during the day and only feeding under the cover of night.
But perhaps the most astonishing examples come from the world of agriculture, where this ancient war plays out on a grand scale. Every year, farmers lose billions of dollars to insects. Corn, wheat, soybeans, cotton all fall prey to hungry invaders. But instead of relying only on pesticides, researchers have turned to nature for answers. Scientists have bred crop varieties that borrow tricks from their wild cousins' leaves with hairy surfaces that make it hard for insects to move, or varieties that produce natural insect-repelling compounds. In some cases, farmers plant flowers alongside crops that attract beneficial insects like ladybugs and parasitic wasps, natural predators of the pests. Even high-tech solutions echo age-old strategies. Genetically modified crops like Bt corn have been engineered to produce a bacterial toxin that targets specific insect pests. While controversial in some circles, the idea mirrors what plants have been doing for millions of years, producing toxins tailored to their enemies. There's a reason nature's tactics are being copied in the lab they work. But this war isn't just about food security or agriculture, it's about balance. Every forest, prairie, and jungle is shaped by this tug of war. If plants had no defenses, herbivorous insects would strip ecosystems bare. If insects couldn't adapt, they'd die out, and the birds, mammals, and reptiles that feed on them would follow. The constant push and pull keeps the system in harmony, like an orchestra where even the smallest violin matters.
And the scale of it is staggering. There are over 400,000 species of plants and more than 1 million described insect species, and likely millions more we haven't discovered. Each interaction between a single plant and a single insect is like a chess match, with strategies, counter-strategies, and evolutionary gambits spanning millennia. Even now, in your garden, this war continues. A tomato plant nibbled by a beetle starts producing alkaloids to deter further attack. A butterfly carefully lays eggs on a milkweed leaf, gambling that her caterpillars will survive the toxic onslaught. An ant marches along a branch, defending its host plant from intruders in exchange for a sugar reward.
It's a story of survival, of coevolution, of nature constantly adjusting, refining, responding. And though you may not hear the cries of battle, or see the scars, they're there. On every leaf, every flower, every tiny chew mark on a petal. The silent war between plants and insects is perhaps the most ancient, most complex, and most quietly beautiful conflict on Earth. So the next time you walk through a forest or tend to your garden, take a closer look. That hole in a leaf. It's not just damage, it's history. That strange smell released by crushed herbs. It's not just aroma, it's a warning signal. And that butterfly fluttering gently on a flower. She may be part of a plot far more intricate than we realize. Because in nature, even the quietest battles are never truly silent. Thank you for watching.